My phone vibrated against the security desk at exactly 9 o'clock. I answered, lifted it to my mouth, and sang softly while the CEO stood frozen behind the glass elevator doors. The HOA board had slipped a noise complaint under my daughter's apartment door that afternoon, with my name and shift schedule printed across the top. My private call was no longer private, and if they pushed the complaint, my childcare waiver and staff housing review could both collapse by morning. What they did not understand was simple. I controlled the overnight badge logs, the loading dock gate, and the emergency access panel for every executive floor in that tower. The first note of the lullaby left my mouth before I saw him. The lobby was almost empty. Marble floors reflected the blue glow from the security monitors. Rain tapped softly against the revolving doors. My daughter breathed through the phone like she was trying not to cry. "Daddy, sing the part about the moon," she whispered. I lowered my voice. "Close your eyes first, Lily." Then the elevator opened. Ethan Caldwell stepped out in a charcoal suit, one hand holding a leather briefcase, the other resting near his phone. He was the CEO of Caldwell Financial, the kind of man whose footsteps made interns stand straighter. He stopped when he heard me sing. I did not hang up. I could not. Some promises mattered more than embarrassment. "Marcus," he said. His voice cut across the lobby. Lily went quiet on the other end. I kept my eyes on the monitors for one more second. West entrance locked. Loading bay secure. Executive elevator returned to ground. All green. Then I turned. "Good evening, sir." His eyes moved from my uniform to the phone in my hand. "Are you on a personal call during active duty?" The question landed hard, but not loud. That made it worse. I heard Lily's small breath through the speaker. "Daddy?" I pressed the phone closer to my chest. "1 minute, baby." Mr. Caldwell looked toward the security cameras above the desk. The red recording lights blinked in silence. Behind him, the night cleaning crew slowed near the hallway. Nobody wanted to look. Everybody listened. The lobby smelled like rainwater, floor polish, and cold coffee from the break room. "Sir," I said, keeping my voice low, "all checkpoints are clear." His jaw tightened. That was not my question. I nodded once. I did not explain Lily's fever. I did not explain the empty apartment across town. I did not explain that her babysitter left at 8:45, or that my daughter would not sleep unless she heard my voice. Men like him heard excuses every day. I had no room to sound like one. "No, sir," I said. It was not. The phone trembled slightly in my hand. Lily whispered again, softer this time. "Are you in trouble?" That was when Mr. Caldwell's expression changed. "Not much. Just enough." His eyes dropped to the phone. The lobby seemed to hold its breath around us. I looked back at the monitors and saw movement near the loading dock camera. A white van had stopped outside the gate. No scheduled delivery. No badge scan. The lullaby died in my throat. Then the loading dock alarm blinked red. The loading dock alarm blinked red again. Not loud. Just a steady pulse on monitor 6. Mr. Caldwell turned toward the screen. The cleaning crew stopped pretending not to listen. Rain slid down the glass outside and distorted the image of the white van. I pressed a button on the console. "Lily, stay on the line." "Okay, Daddy." Her voice sounded small beneath the hum of the security equipment. I switched cameras. Front plate obscured. No company logo. No delivery authorization in the system. Another mini-hook settled in my stomach. The gate remained locked. Yet the van had positioned itself directly in front of the employee entrance. "Expected delivery?" Mr. Caldwell asked. "No, sir." I pulled up the overnight schedule. Nothing. The loading dock lights reflected off wet concrete. A figure stepped out of the driver's side. Hood up. Head down. He walked toward the keypad. The gate did not open. He tried again. Still nothing. Bad code, I said quietly. Mr. Caldwell watched without speaking. The man looked around. Then he pulled out a phone. My radio crackled. Marcus, you seeing this? It was Raymond from the exterior patrol route. I see it. Want me to head over? Not yet. The figure returned to the van. I kept my eyes on the monitor. Beside me, Mr. Caldwell set his briefcase down for the first time since entering the lobby. That caught my attention. Executives usually left security matters to security staff. He stayed. Another camera angle appeared. The van backed up a few feet. Then stopped. No attempt to force entry. No confrontation. Just waiting. Sometimes waiting was worse. Lily coughed softly through the phone. The sound cut through everything else. Daddy? I am here. You did not finish the song. I closed my eyes for half a second. The lobby lights felt brighter than before. 1 minute, baby. Mr. Caldwell glanced toward me. Then toward the phone. Then back to the screen. Nobody said anything. The silence stretched. I accessed the badge log system. Every exterior door. Every elevator bank. Every restricted floor. Green indicators filled the screen. No unauthorized access. Yet something about the van bothered me. The driver knew where to stop. Knew which gate to approach. Knew the employee entrance instead of the public one. That meant familiarity. Another mini hook. How long have you worked nights? Mr. Caldwell asked suddenly. I kept typing. 4 years. Always this shift. Mostly. He nodded once. The rain intensified. Water rattled against the building like handfuls of pebbles. The driver remained inside the van now. Waiting. Watching. Raymond's voice returned over the radio. Vehicle just ran registration. I looked up. And? A pause. Registered to a former maintenance contractor. That got my attention. Mr. Caldwell's too. I opened another database window. The contractor's account had been terminated 8 months earlier. Access privileges revoked. Contact information inactive. Yet somehow that van was back at our gate. The red alarm light continued blinking. Slow. Patient. Uncomfortable. Can they get in? Mr. Caldwell asked. I looked at the access panel. Then the badge system. Then the emergency overrides. Not unless somebody inside helps them. The words hung in the air. One of the cleaners shifted uneasily. Mr. Caldwell's expression hardened. Not toward me. Toward the possibility. I heard Lily yawn softly through the phone. Daddy? Yes, baby. I am trying to stay awake. The clock on the security monitor read 9:12 p.m. 12 minutes past the promise I made every night. Outside, the van's headlights suddenly switched off. Then something unexpected appeared on monitor 8. Then something unexpected appeared on monitor 8. A green access request flashed across the screen. Not at the loading dock. Not at the employee entrance. Executive parking garage. My stomach tightened. That garage required a higher clearance level than most people in the building could access. I opened the request log immediately. The badge number appeared for less than a second before disappearing. Then the request failed. Did you catch it? Mr. Caldwell asked. Almost. I pulled up the archive system. The security software hummed softly beneath my fingertips. Rain hammered the glass harder now. Somewhere above us, thunder rolled across the city. Lily yawned again. "Daddy, are you still there?" "I am here, baby. You sound busy." A faint smile touched my face despite everything. "A little." The archive loaded. Badge request. Executive Garage Gate B, failed authentication. I zoomed in on the number. My eyes narrowed. The badge belonged to someone who no longer worked here. Another former contractor. Deactivated 6 months ago. Mr. Caldwell leaned closer to the monitor. The smell of expensive cologne mixed with floor polish and damp air from the entrance. That is impossible. It should be. I checked the database again. Same result. Revoked credentials. Yet someone had just attempted to use them. A mini hook settled over the lobby. Somebody out there knew more about this building than they should. Raymond came back on the radio. "Marcus, I have visual. Go ahead." Driver never left. But somebody else is walking the perimeter. My eyes jumped to another camera feed. There. A second figure. Dark raincoat. Baseball cap. Moving slowly along the fence line. Not rushing. Not hiding. Just looking. "Camera 12, I said. Mr. Caldwell followed my gaze. The figure stopped beneath a security light. For 1 second the face became visible. Then the person moved again. Gone. "Do you recognize them?" he asked. "No, I enlarged the image anyway. Too blurry. Too much rain." The cleaning crew had completely stopped working now. One woman stood frozen with a mop in her hands. Nobody wanted to interrupt. The lobby felt smaller than before. The building felt larger. Like every dark hallway suddenly contained a question. I opened the internal communication logs. Another detail appeared immediately. Someone had requested maintenance records for the executive garage 3 days earlier. The request came from an internal workstation. My workstation. I stared at the screen. That was not me. Mr. Caldwell looked over. "Someone used your terminal." "Looks that way." The words tasted bitter. My access credentials were tied to everything. Badge logs. Security reports. Emergency overrides. If somebody used my account, it would point directly at me. Another escalation. Another problem. Lily's voice returned softly through the phone. "Daddy?" "Yes." "Can you finish the moon song soon?" I looked toward the ceiling for a moment. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The security monitors painted blue reflections across the marble floor. "I promise." "Okay." She trusted that answer. Children always did. The trust made promises heavier. Mr. Caldwell remained beside me. He had every reason to walk away. Most executives would have. Instead he watched the screens. Quiet. Focused. Thinking. The van remained outside. The second figure had disappeared. The failed badge request sat frozen in the system log. Then another alert appeared. Not red. Not yellow. White. Internal access report. Somebody had entered the building 15 minutes earlier using a valid employee badge. The name on the screen made me stop breathing for a second. Because I knew exactly who it was. The name on the screen was Raymond Parker. I stared at it for a second longer than I should have. Rain continued drumming against the glass walls. The security monitors cast pale blue light across the lobby. Mr. Caldwell looked from the screen to my face. "You know him?" It was not a question. "Yes, sir." My voice came out lower than before. Raymond had worked nights with me for almost 2 years. He covered exterior patrols. He knew every camera angle, every blind corner, every access route around the property. Another mini-hook settled into the silence. If Raymond was involved, then this was no random security issue. Lily shifted softly on the phone. I heard blankets moving. Daddy? I am here. I am getting sleepy. I swallowed hard. Good. Her small laugh crackled through the speaker. For a moment the tension eased. Then another alert appeared. Access request. Executive stairwell. Authorized. Raymond Parker. Time stamp, 8:58 p.m. 14 minutes before he radioed me from outside. My stomach tightened. That cannot be right, I said. Mr. Caldwell folded his arms. Why? Because he told me he was on perimeter patrol. I pulled up camera footage. The system loaded slowly. Too slowly. The rain seemed louder now. One of the cleaners finally moved again, pushing a mop across the marble floor with quiet strokes. Nobody spoke. Camera 22 appeared on screen. Executive stairwell. Empty. I rewound the footage. 30 seconds. 1 minute. 2 minutes. Then there he was. Raymond. Same uniform. Same jacket. Same patrol badge clipped to his belt. Entering the stairwell at 8:58 p.m. My chest felt heavy. That is him, Mr. Caldwell said. Yes. We watched in silence. Raymond looked around before opening the door. Not suspiciously. Almost carefully. Then he disappeared inside. I checked the next camera. Nothing. Then the next. Nothing again. The footage simply stopped tracking him. Another mini-hook. He had entered a part of the building where cameras changed coverage zones. A person familiar with security systems would know exactly where those gaps existed. Where does that stairwell lead? Mr. Caldwell asked. Executive offices. His eyes narrowed slightly. The answer landed between us. I opened the internal floor map. The executive level occupied the top floor. Restricted access. Private offices. Boardroom. Financial archives. Sensitive records. The building suddenly felt different. Larger. Colder. More vulnerable. My radio crackled. Raymond's voice came through again. Marcus, you still with me? I looked at the speaker. Then at the monitor showing his access record. Mr. Caldwell watched quietly. Neither of us answered immediately. Marcus? Raymond repeated. Static hissed behind his voice. Rain. Wind. Maybe traffic. Maybe not. I pressed the transmit button. Go ahead. Vehicle just left the loading dock area. I looked at monitor 6. He was right. The van was moving. Slowly pulling away from the gate. No rush. No panic. Almost like it had completed its purpose. Another escalation. Mr. Caldwell noticed it too. That is not good. No, sir. The van disappeared beyond camera range. Gone. Yet the access logs remained. Raymond inside the building. A former contractor outside. Failed executive garage credentials. Somebody using my terminal. None of it fit together yet. Lily yawned again. Longer this time. Daddy? Yes, baby. You promised. Her voice was barely above a whisper. The clock read 9:18 p.m. 18 minutes late. I looked at the phone in my hand. Then at the monitors. Then at the CEO standing beside me. Something unexpected happened next. Mr. Caldwell reached toward the desk and pointed at the phone. "Finish the song first," he said quietly. Then he looked back at the screen and added one sentence that changed everything. "I will watch the monitors." For a second I thought I had misheard him. The CEO of a company that occupied 40 floors of glass and steel was standing behind my security desk offering to watch the monitors while I finished a bedtime song. The rain softened outside. The lobby seemed quieter. Even the cleaners stopped moving again. I looked at him. He nodded once toward the phone. "Go ahead." I lowered my eyes to the screen in my hand. "You still awake, Lily?" "Barely." Her voice sounded warm and sleepy. I smiled despite everything around me. Then I began singing. Softly at first. The same lullaby I had sung every night since she was 4 years old. The marble lobby carried the sound farther than I expected. The notes drifted through the empty space. Through the glow of security monitors. Through the scent of rain and floor polish. Nobody interrupted. Halfway through the song, Lily started humming along. She always did. Another mini hook settled into the moment. The building felt less like an office tower and more like a home, trying to remember what home sounded like. When the final verse ended, I heard a long yawn. "Daddy," she whispered. "Yes, baby. I love you." The words landed harder than any security alert ever could. "I love you too." Silence followed. Then her breathing slowed. Steady. Even. Asleep. I stayed on the line another 20 seconds just to be sure. Only then did I end the call. The screen went dark. I slipped the phone into my pocket. When I looked up, Mr. Caldwell was still watching the monitors. Not me. The monitors. Like he had taken the responsibility seriously. "Thank you, sir." He nodded once. "Did she fall asleep?" "Yes." The question surprised me. Not because he asked it. Because he cared enough to ask. I returned to the console. The access log still filled the screen. Raymond's badge activity remained highlighted. The failed executive garage request sat beneath it. The white van was gone. Yet nothing felt resolved. If anything, the quiet made everything heavier. I opened the stairwell camera archive again. "There," Mr. Caldwell said suddenly. I followed his gaze. A timestamp. 9:03 p.m. Executive level corridor. Raymond exiting the stairwell. My pulse quickened. We both leaned closer. Raymond walked calmly down the hallway. Not running. Not sneaking. Calm. That bothered me more. People doing something wrong usually rushed. People who believed they belonged moved slowly. He stopped outside a conference room. Then another person entered the frame. My breath caught. "Who is that?" Mr. Caldwell asked. I enlarged the image. Female. Mid-50s. Company identification badge visible. Accounting department. Susan Fletcher. Another employee with legitimate access. Another unexpected name. The two exchanged a few words. No audio. Then Susan handed Raymond a folder. A plain gray folder. Nothing dramatic. Yet the moment felt important. Raymond accepted it. Nodded. Then disappeared back toward the stairwell. That happened 16 minutes before he called from outside, I said. Meaning? Meaning he was not where he claimed to be. The lobby lights reflected across the monitor glass. My own face looked tired staring back at me. Mr. Caldwell remained. Silent. Thinking. Processing. Another alert suddenly appeared at the bottom of the screen. New access event. Active now. Not archived. Not old footage. Current activity. Executive Records Room. Authorized entry. Susan Fletcher. Time stamp, 9:26 p.m. My eyes met Mr. Caldwell's. Neither of us spoke. Because Susan was supposed to have left the building 2 hours ago. Then the records room door opened on camera 31. The records room door opened on camera 31. Susan Fletcher stepped inside carrying the same gray folder we had seen earlier. The fluorescent lights in the records hallway painted everything in pale white. Rain still rolled down the windows outside the tower. The lobby remained silent except for the soft hum of computers and distant cleaning equipment. Mr. Caldwell leaned closer to the monitor. I opened the access details immediately. Susan had entered using her own credentials. Nothing unusual there. The unusual part was the time. Accounting staff never stayed this late. Another mini-hook settled into the room. Susan moved directly toward a filing cabinet at the back of the records room. She did not hesitate. She knew exactly where she was going. Can we zoom in? Mr. Caldwell asked. Already doing it. The image sharpened. Susan opened a drawer. Removed several folders. Compared them against the gray folder in her hands. Then she placed one of the records into a document bag. Not hurried. Not nervous. Methodical. That worried me more. My radio remained quiet. Too quiet. Raymond had not checked in again. I switched to another camera. Executive stairwell. Empty. Hallway. Empty. Parking garage. Empty. Every monitor seemed calm. Yet none of it felt calm anymore. What is in that room? Mr. Caldwell asked. Executive Financial Archives. Vendor agreements. Internal contracts. Compliance records. He stared at the screen. His expression changed slightly. Sensitive documents. Yes, sir. Susan continued sorting files. Then she looked toward the door. Not at the camera. Toward the door. Like she expected someone. A few seconds later the handle moved. My pulse jumped. The door opened again. Raymond entered. He was still wearing his patrol jacket. Still carrying his radio. Still looking exactly like an employee doing his job. But he was not supposed to be there. Another escalation. The cleaning crew had gathered near the far hallway now. Nobody pretended not to watch anymore. The entire lobby seemed connected to the monitors. Raymond approached the table. Susan handed him the document bag. He looked inside. Nodded once. Then pointed toward another cabinet. No argument. No confusion. They clearly knew each other. How long have they worked here together? Mr. Caldwell asked quietly. I checked personnel records. 7 years. His eyes stayed on the screen. Mine did too. 7 years was enough time to build trust. Enough time to build habits. Enough time to build secrets. The records room camera had no audio. We could only watch. Raymond slipped the document bag beneath his jacket. Susan returned several folders to the cabinet. Then something unexpected happened. Susan stopped moving. She looked directly upward. Toward the camera. For 1 second her face froze. Almost like she suddenly remembered surveillance existed. The feeling hit me immediately. She knew. Maybe not everything. But enough. She noticed the camera, I said. Looks that way. Mr. Caldwell folded his arms tighter. Susan turned away again. Calmly. Too calmly. Then both of them exited the room. The door closed behind them. Access log updated instantly. Records room secured. Hallway camera picked them up next. Raymond headed toward the stairwell. Susan walked the opposite direction. Separating. Creating distance. Like coworkers ending a normal conversation. Yet the gray folder was gone. Another mini hook. Whatever had been inside that folder was now somewhere else. I checked Raymond's current location through the patrol tracking system. Nothing. The signal had disappeared. My stomach tightened. Every officer carried a tracker during active shifts. His should have been visible. That is not possible, I said quietly. Mr. Caldwell looked over. What happened? I pointed at the screen. His tracker just went offline. Neither of us spoke for a moment. Rain tapped softly against the glass again. Somewhere high above us, an elevator bell chimed. Then a new alert appeared across the top of every monitor in bright white letters. Emergency access request. Executive floor. Origin unknown. Emergency access request. Executive floor. Origin unknown. The white banner stretched across every monitor. The lobby seemed to freeze around it. Even the cleaners stopped moving again. Rain whispered against the glass walls. The blue light from the security screens reflected across the marble floor. I clicked into the alert. No badge number. No employee identification. No device signature. Just a request coming from somewhere inside the building. Can that happen? Mr. Caldwell asked. Not normally. I opened another screen. Then another. The system logs began scrolling past my eyes. Every request should leave a trail. Every door. Every panel. Every override. This one looked like a ghost. Another mini hook settled into the silence. Someone knew how the system worked. The elevator bell chimed again somewhere above us. Soft. Distant. The sound made the building feel alive. I checked the executive floor cameras. Hallways empty. Conference rooms dark. Reception area vacant. Nothing moved. Yet the access request remained active. Could it be a malfunction? Mr. Caldwell asked. I shook my head. Malfunctions leave errors. I pointed toward the screen. This left intent. He looked at me for a second. Then back to the monitors. The distinction mattered. My radio crackled unexpectedly. Static first. Then breathing. Raymond? No answer. Just another burst of static. I adjusted the volume. Raymond, respond. Silence. Then the transmission ended. My pulse quickened. Not because of fear. Because Raymond never ignored protocol. Not once in 2 years. Another piece refused to fit. I opened the patrol tracker again. Still offline. The rain outside had softened into a steady mist now. Water streaked down the windows in silver lines. Somewhere deep in the building an air handler started humming. The sound rolled through the structure like a distant engine. Look at camera 14, Mr. Caldwell said suddenly. I turned. Executive floor reception. A shadow moved across the far end of the hallway. Gone almost immediately. I froze the frame. Enlarged it. The image blurred. Not enough detail. Just the outline of a person. Someone was up there. Another escalation. I checked the elevator logs. No recent arrivals. No executive badge activity. No stairwell alerts. Yet somebody had crossed that hallway. The system said nobody was there. The camera said otherwise. That is impossible, Mr. Caldwell murmured. I agree. I switched feeds again. Camera 15. Empty. Camera 16. Empty. Camera 17. Empty. Then camera 18 loaded. My breath caught. The executive boardroom door stood slightly open. Only a few inches. Just enough to notice. Was that open earlier? He asked. I checked archived footage. Rewound 15 minutes. Closed. Rewound 10 minutes. Closed. Rewound 5 minutes. Closed. Current view. Open. Nobody had triggered the access system. Nobody had appeared on camera. Yet the door had changed. Another mini hook. The room suddenly felt colder. One of the cleaners quietly crossed herself near the hallway. Nobody laughed. I opened the boardroom camera. Empty table. Empty chairs. City lights glowing beyond the glass walls. Then movement. Tiny. Barely visible. A reflection. Someone standing just outside the camera angle. Watching the room. Watching the door. Watching something. Mr. Caldwell leaned forward. Can you enhance that? I tried. The software sharpened the image slightly. Not enough. The figure remained a blur. Human. Motionless. Waiting. Then a new sound came through my radio. Not static this time. Not breathing. A voice. Very quiet. Very familiar. Marcus, Raymond whispered. Do not trust the access logs. The transmission ended immediately. Then every monitor in the security center went black. Then every monitor in the security center went black. The blue glow vanished. The lobby fell into an uneasy silence. For a second all I could hear was rain sliding down the glass and the distant hum of the building breathing through its ventilation system. One of the cleaners gasped softly. Mr. Caldwell stepped closer to the console. Tell me that is a coincidence. I was already moving. My fingers flew across the keyboard. The backup power indicators remained green. Network status remained active. Emergency systems remained online. Only the surveillance feed had disappeared. Another mini hook settled heavily in my chest. Somebody had not cut the power. Somebody had targeted the cameras. External attack, he asked. Maybe. I opened the diagnostic panel. Lines of system data rolled across the screen. Authentication failures. Redirected requests. Corrupted camera pathways. None of it looked random. The building smelled faintly of ozone from the electronics cabinet beneath the desk. Somewhere overhead an elevator motor started and stopped. Can you restore them? Mr. Caldwell asked. Working on it. The black screens reflected our faces back at us. My own looked older than it had an hour earlier. Then one monitor flickered. Camera 12 returned first. Empty hallway. Another flicker. Camera 4. Loading dock. Empty. Then camera 31 appeared. Records room corridor. Empty again. The feeds returned one at a time like lights coming back after a storm. Relief started to settle over the lobby. Then camera 18 loaded. Executive boardroom. The door was closed now. Completely closed. My pulse jumped. 20 seconds earlier it had been open. Did we lose recording during the outage? Mr. Caldwell asked. 37 seconds. He stared at the monitor. A lot can happen in 37 seconds. Neither of us liked that answer. I checked the access logs. The system showed no door activity. No badge scans. No override requests. Raymond's warning echoed in my head. Do not trust the access logs. Another mini hook. Maybe the logs were not recording reality anymore. Maybe they were recording what someone wanted us to see. My radio crackled again. Static. Then silence. Then a voice. Not Raymond this time. Susan Fletcher. Marcus? Her voice sounded strained but controlled. Susan. Listen carefully. I looked at Mr. Caldwell. He was listening too. Where are you? I asked. A pause. Air moved across her microphone. That does not matter right now. The answer made my stomach tighten. Susan, what is happening? Another pause. The wrong people are looking at the wrong person. Then the transmission ended. Just like that. No explanation. No location. Nothing. The lobby felt colder. The cleaners exchanged nervous looks. Outside, the rain had almost stopped. Water dripped steadily from the edge of the entrance canopy. I opened employee records. Susan's profile appeared. 23 years with the company. No disciplinary history. Perfect evaluations. Trusted. Stable. Reliable. The kind of employee nobody questioned. She sounded scared, Mr. Caldwell said quietly. Yes. Scared of what? Before I could answer, a notification appeared on the lower corner of the screen. Archived audio file detected. Uploaded 8 minutes earlier. Source unknown. My eyes narrowed. That was not there before. I opened it. The file contained only 21 seconds of audio. No title. No sender. Just a timestamp. I pressed play. At first there was nothing except background noise. Footsteps. Air vents. A distant elevator bell. Then a familiar voice spoke. Raymond. If Marcus gets blamed, the whole thing stays buried. The recording ended immediately. Silence crashed back into the room. Mr. Caldwell slowly looked toward me. I stared at the screen. Because for the first time all night, somebody had finally said my name. For a moment nobody spoke. The audio file sat on the screen like a weight in the center of the room. Rainwater dripped steadily outside the entrance canopy. The security monitors glowed blue against the marble walls. I replayed the recording. Raymond's voice filled the silence again. If Marcus gets blamed, the whole thing stays buried. Then nothing. Just the soft hiss of background noise. Mr. Caldwell stared at the screen. Buried, he repeated quietly. I did not answer. Because I was asking the same question. Another mini-hook settled into my mind. Buried what? I opened the audio properties. Creation time. Source location. User credentials. Most of the fields were blank. Whoever uploaded it knew how to cover their tracks. Yet one detail remained. Building network access point. Executive floor. It came from upstairs, I said. Mr. Caldwell leaned closer. Can you narrow it down? I started tracing the signal path. The system responded slowly. Too many access requests. Too many alerts. The building felt tense now. Like it knew something we did not. My radio remained silent. No word from Raymond. No word from Susan. The cleaners had finally returned to work, but they moved quietly. Nobody wanted to break the atmosphere hanging over the lobby. The trace completed. My eyes narrowed. Boardroom network terminal. Mr. Caldwell looked toward the monitor showing the executive level. The boardroom door remained closed. The hallway remained empty. Someone uploaded that from inside the boardroom. Another escalation. The same room where we had seen the unexplained reflection. The same room whose door had opened and closed during the camera outage. I checked the occupancy sensors. No activity detected. I checked them again. Same result. You do not believe that, do you? He asked. No, sir. Neither did he. A soft vibration came from my pocket. My phone. I pulled it out immediately. My heart jumped when I saw the screen. A photograph had arrived from an unknown number. No message. Just an image. I opened it. The picture showed a gray folder lying on a conference table. The same gray folder Susan had handed to Raymond. Behind it sat a digital clock. 9:34 p.m. Current time. The photograph had been taken only moments earlier. Someone sent me this. I handed the phone to Mr. Caldwell. His eyes widened slightly. That is tonight. Yes. I enlarged the image. Another detail appeared. Reflected in the polished table surface. A coffee mug with the company logo. Executive boardroom. Another mini hook. Whoever sent the image wanted us to know exactly where the folder was. Not hidden. Not stolen. Waiting. Then a second message arrived. This time text only. 3 words. Trust Susan. I stared at the screen. The message vanished almost immediately. Deleted remotely before I could save it. Did you see that? I asked. I did. The air inside the lobby suddenly felt colder. I looked at the boardroom camera again. Empty. Quiet. Yet someone had just communicated with us from somewhere inside the executive floor. The elevator bell chimed once more. This time closer. Much closer. I switched cameras automatically. Executive elevator descending. Floor 40. Floor 38. Floor 35. Somebody was coming down. The access system finally identified the rider. My breath caught. The name belonged to a board member who was supposed to be in Chicago tonight. Mr. Caldwell saw it too. His expression changed instantly. Not confusion. Recognition. That cannot be right, he said. The elevator continued descending. Then the radio crackled again. Raymond's voice returned, sharper this time. Marcus, whatever happens next, do not leave the lobby. Do not leave the lobby. Raymond's words echoed through the radio before the transmission died. I stared at the speaker for a moment. The executive elevator continued its descent. Floor 28. Floor 25. Floor 21. The numbers glowed red against the dark display panel. Rain had almost stopped outside. Water dripped steadily from the edges of the building. The lobby lights seemed brighter now. Sharper. Every reflection on the marble floor looked too clear. Mr. Caldwell watched the elevator indicator without blinking. The board member should be 3 states away, he said quietly. That is what the travel schedule says. Another mini hook settled over us. Either the schedule was wrong or somebody was using credentials that belonged to someone else. Neither option felt good. I opened the authentication details. The elevator request came from a valid executive credential. No signs of duplication. No signs of forced entry. Yet tonight had already proven that systems could lie. The cleaners had gathered near the far hallway again. They whispered among themselves. Nobody left. Nobody wanted to miss what happened next. Floor 16. Floor 14. Floor 12. The elevator kept coming. My phone vibrated once. Another message. Unknown sender. No text. Only a photograph. I opened it immediately. The image showed the executive boardroom from a different angle than any security camera in the building. The gray folder sat open now. Several pages spread across the table. One page contained a highlighted name. My name. Marcus Johnson. My throat tightened. Mr. Caldwell looked over my shoulder. His expression hardened. Why is your name in those records? I do not know. The answer sounded weak even to me. Another photograph arrived. This one closer. A document header became visible. Internal Review Report. Below it sat several paragraphs. Most were unreadable. One line was clear enough. Security Access Liability Assessment. My pulse quickened. Somebody had been compiling information about me. Not tonight. Long before tonight. The elevator indicator reached floor 5. The lobby became completely silent. Even the air seemed to pause. Mr. Caldwell looked at the photographs again. I have never seen these reports. Neither have I. The elevator reached floor 3. Then floor 2. Another mini hook. Whoever stepped out of that elevator might answer everything. Or make everything worse. The doors opened with a soft chime. Both of us turned immediately toward the camera feed covering the executive elevator lobby. The image appeared on monitor 7. Empty. Nobody exited. I frowned. That is impossible. The elevator had arrived. The access log confirmed it. Yet nobody appeared. I switched to another camera angle. Same result. Empty hallway. Empty lobby. Empty elevator entrance. Mr. Caldwell stepped closer. Check inside the elevator. I pulled up the interior camera. The cab was empty. Completely empty. No passenger. No movement. Nothing. Yet the system still showed an active credential traveling from the executive floor to the lobby. Another escalation. The building seemed to be generating ghosts. Then a soft sound came from behind us. Not from the monitors. Not from the elevator. The actual lobby. A single sheet of paper slid from beneath the security desk printer. I stared at it. The printer had not been connected to any active job. Slowly I picked up the page. Fresh ink. Fresh paper. Printed seconds ago. Across the top were 6 words. For Marcus Johnson. Read alone. Beneath the message was a handwritten note scanned into the document. I recognized the handwriting instantly. It belonged to Susan Fletcher. Then I noticed the final sentence at the bottom of the page. It changed everything I thought I understood. The final sentence at the bottom of the page read, "They chose you because they believed nobody would defend you." The words sat there in black ink. Simple. Quiet. Heavy. I stared at them while the printer beside me hummed itself back to silence. Rainwater continued dripping outside the glass entrance. The lobby felt smaller now. Like the walls had moved closer. Mr. Caldwell watched my face. "What does it say?" I handed him the page. He read it once. Then again. His jaw tightened slightly. Another mini hook settled into the room. This was no longer about missing documents. Somebody had selected a target. And according to Susan, that target was me. I lowered myself into the chair behind the security desk. The paper felt cold in my hands. Susan's note continued beneath the warning. Short sentences. Careful handwriting. She explained that several internal reviews had been quietly conducted over the past year. Access audits. Security assessments. Responsibility studies. Reports designed to determine who could absorb blame if sensitive records disappeared. My stomach tightened. Every document pointed toward one conclusion. The night security supervisor would be blamed first. Me. "That is why your name was in those files," Mr. Caldwell said. I nodded slowly. The pieces were beginning to fit together. Too many strange events. Too many manipulated records. Too many attempts to tie activity back to my credentials. Another escalation. Somebody had been building a story long before tonight. A story designed to look believable. My radio crackled softly. This time there was no static. Only Raymond's voice. Calm. Direct. Did you get the note? Yes. Good. Relief washed through me. Not because the situation had improved. Because he was finally talking openly. Where are you? I asked. A brief pause followed. Close. Typical Raymond. Never more words than necessary. Mr. Caldwell stepped nearer to the desk. Tell him to come down. Raymond answered before I could. I cannot yet. Why? Another pause. Then his voice lowered. Because somebody is still watching the wrong cameras. The transmission ended. I stared at the radio. Another mini hook. Wrong cameras. Not broken cameras. Wrong cameras. The distinction mattered. I pulled up the system architecture. Every active feed. Every routing path. Every monitor assignment. Hundreds of connections filled the screen. Then I saw it. Hidden inside a maintenance submenu. A duplicate camera network. My pulse jumped. Sir. Mr. Caldwell moved closer. What? I pointed. There are 2 surveillance systems. His eyes narrowed. 2. The one we have been watching all night. I tapped the screen. And another network running underneath it. The realization hit both of us at the same time. Someone had not simply altered logs. Someone had created an entirely separate layer of monitoring. A shadow system. One that most employees would never know existed. I opened the secondary network. Password protected. Hidden. Restricted. Yet one user profile still possessed access rights. Mine. I froze. Mr. Caldwell looked at me. Can you open it? Slowly, I entered my credentials. The screen loaded. A new set of camera feeds appeared. Different angles. Different recordings. Real recordings. Not filtered. Not edited. The executive boardroom immediately filled one monitor. Empty chairs. Empty table. Except for one thing. The gray folder remained there. Exactly where the photograph had shown it. Nobody had removed it. Nobody had hidden it. Another feed appeared. Executive hallway. Susan Fletcher sitting alone against the wall. Waiting. Another feed. Stairwell level 38. Raymond standing beside a locked service door. Watching. Protecting something. Or someone. Everything we thought had happened suddenly looked different. Then a final camera feed appeared automatically in the corner of the screen. The image showed a private executive office. And the person sitting inside made Mr. Caldwell go completely silent. The person sitting inside the private executive office was the board member everyone believed was in Chicago. He sat alone behind the desk. Calm. Unhurried. A lamp cast warm light across stacks of documents beside him. Outside his office windows, the city shimmered beneath the last traces of rain. The lobby fell completely silent. Mr. Caldwell stared at the screen without blinking. That is impossible, he said quietly. His voice sounded different now. Less certain. More personal. I looked from the monitor to him. You know him well. Mr. Caldwell nodded once. For 20 years. Another mini hook settled between us. The man on the screen did not look trapped. He did not look threatened. He looked comfortable. Like someone waiting for a meeting to begin. I switched to another camera angle. Same office. Same man. Same calm expression. He glanced toward his watch. Then toward the door. Waiting. He was never supposed to be here tonight, Mr. Caldwell said. But he is. The words hung in the air. The secondary camera network continued loading additional feeds. Information flooded the screen. Hidden recordings. Archived footage. Alternate timestamps. The deeper system contained weeks of preserved surveillance. Someone had built it carefully. Someone wanted evidence to survive. I opened a recent recording from 3 nights earlier. The same board member appeared. Same office. Same gray folder. Then Susan entered carrying documents. No secrecy. No tension. Just conversation. Another recording followed. Raymond appeared. Then another. More meetings. More exchanges. The pattern became clear. Susan and Raymond had not been helping a theft. They had been documenting something. Protecting something. They were gathering evidence, I said quietly. Mr. Caldwell nodded. He had already reached the same conclusion. A soft vibration came from my radio. Then Raymond's voice returned. Stronger this time. Marcus. I am here. Did you find the secondary system? Yes. A pause. Then relief entered his voice for the first time all night. Good. The word carried more weight than it should have. What is really happening? I asked. Silence lingered for a few seconds. Rainwater continued dripping outside. The building seemed to hold its breath. Finally Raymond answered. Susan found irregular transfers months ago. Financial records. Contract adjustments. Numbers that never matched. I looked toward Mr. Caldwell. His eyes remained fixed on the monitor. The folder? I asked. Proof, Raymond said. Enough proof to survive deletion attempts. Another mini hook. The entire night suddenly shifted direction. This had never been about stolen files. It had never been about security. Failures. Somebody had been trying to erase evidence. And somebody else had been trying to save it. Why frame me? I asked. Raymond answered immediately. Because you controlled access. If everything disappeared, investigators would start with security. Susan's warning echoed inside my head. They chose you because they believed nobody would defend you. For a moment I could not speak. Then something unexpected happened. Mr. Caldwell placed a hand on the edge of the desk and looked directly at my reflection in the monitor glass. They were wrong. The words were simple. Quiet. Honest. Yet they changed something inside the room. Another feed appeared on the secondary network. Executive boardroom. Susan was standing now. The gray folder rested on the table beside her. She looked tired. But no longer afraid. The board member's office door opened at the same moment. He stood and picked up his coat. Then he began walking toward the boardroom. Everyone seemed to be moving toward the same destination. The next few minutes would decide everything. The next few minutes would decide everything. I watched the secondary camera feeds while the lobby remained wrapped in silence. The rain had finally stopped. Water clung to the glass outside like scattered silver threads. The city lights beyond the windows looked softer now. Less threatening. More honest. On the monitor, the board member stepped into the executive boardroom. Susan stood waiting beside the table. The gray folder remained exactly where it had been all night. Untouched. Protected. Another mini hook settled into the moment. Nobody ran. Nobody shouted. Nobody hid. The truth no longer needed hiding. Mr. Caldwell remained beside me. His eyes never left the screen. I opened another feed. Raymond emerged from the stairwell and entered the boardroom from a separate door. 3 people. One room. One folder. The entire night had led there. The hidden surveillance system continued recording everything. Every movement. Every expression. Every second. Susan slid the gray folder across the table. The board member opened it. He read quietly. Page after page. His shoulders slowly lowered. Not from fear. From resignation. The kind that comes when facts leave no room for argument. The lobby air felt lighter. I did not realize how tightly I had been holding my breath until then. A few minutes passed. Nobody spoke over the radio. Nobody interrupted. Then Mr. Caldwell's phone rang. The sound seemed unusually loud. He answered immediately. Listened. Said only 3 words. Send them up. Then he ended the call. Who was that? I asked. He looked toward the monitors. Independent auditors. Another mini hook. The final piece had arrived. Upstairs, the boardroom door opened again. Several people entered carrying cases and laptops. Nobody appeared surprised. Almost as if plans had been waiting for this exact moment. Susan stepped back from the table. Raymond remained near the wall. Neither looked victorious. Just tired. Very tired. I understood that feeling. My radio crackled one final time. Marcus. Raymond's voice sounded clearer than it had all night. You there? I am here. A short pause followed. I am sorry. The words caught me off guard. For what? For letting it get this close to you. I looked at the monitors. At the evidence. At the hidden system that had protected the truth when everything else failed. You did not. Another pause. Then a quiet laugh. The first laugh I had heard from him all night. Tell Lily I said goodnight. I will. The transmission ended. This time it felt complete. Not interrupted. Complete. Mr. Caldwell looked at me. The tension that had followed him into the lobby hours earlier was gone. You know, he said quietly, most people would have left work and gone home after everything tonight. I smiled faintly. Most people had somebody waiting for them. He nodded slowly. The understanding passed between us without another word. Outside, the clouds were beginning to break apart. A thin ribbon of moonlight touched the wet pavement beyond the entrance. The cleaners finally returned to their work. The building resumed its normal sounds. Elevators. Air vents. Footsteps. Life. I looked down at my phone. A new message had arrived. Just one photograph. Lily asleep beneath her blanket. Peaceful. Safe. The timestamp showed only a few minutes earlier. I stared at the image and smiled. Upstairs, the truth was finally being heard. Down here, the night was finally ending. And for the first time since the alarms began, the building felt quiet.